Hey guys, it's Adam, and this week I want to talk about interior designer fees and charges in 2026. What should you be charging? If you're an interior designer or decorator wondering what you should actually be charging in 2026, you're not alone. Pricing is one of the most confusing parts of this industry. Some designers charge, $90 an hour. Some charge $150 an hour. Some charge $250 an hour. Some charge $350 or more. And if you're a few years into the business, it can feel almost impossible to know where you should actually sit. So in this video, I'm going to break down realistic hourly ranges for interior designers and decorators based on experience, but plus how professionals think about things like administration time, travel time, and the financial health of a design project. But stay with me until the very end of the video because I'm going to show you one simple calculation that's going to tell you whether your hourly rate is actually working for you, not based so much on what other designers are charging, but based on something that will show you very clearly whether your business is financially sustainable. Now, along with that, I've also created a quick interior designer quiz that can help you take stock of where you're at in your business. There's a whole lot of questions in there. Well, not too many. I think about 15, but you'll see roughly how you're traveling. And I can give you some great advice in there if you're sort of falling under in some areas, but highlight where you might be going really strong in some areas. Take the quiz. Everyone loves a quiz over at turnkeydesign.com/quiz. So I'm leaving that link in the description below. And if you enjoy honest conversations around building a stronger interior design business as a solopreneur, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel because that's exactly what I talk about here every single week. So, all right, I better get onto it. Why interior design pricing feels so confusing? It just really does, doesn't it? One of the reasons pricing feels so confusing in our industry is because there's no universal structure, is there? Interior design sits somewhere between a creative service and a professional consultancy. So you'll see designers charging per hour, or they may charge flat design fees, or they may charge percentages of fees, like I do, a procurement percentage. They could be creating packages, consultation packages, or all different sorts of hybrid models. Because of that, designers naturally start comparing themselves to everybody else around them. So they'll look on Instagram, they'll jump into Facebook groups asking questions. They'll quietly try to work out what other designers are charging and also assess whether or not they're worth that in terms of value. And then they start second guessing themselves. Am I charging too much? Am I charging too little? But one of the biggest mistakes designers make is setting their fees based on fear instead of experience. Fear that the client will say, no, I'm not paying that. Fear that they're not experienced enough. Little old me shouldn't be charging much. Fear that someone else is cheaper and we should, cut ourselves back to meet that type of pricing. But clients rarely choose designers simply because of the price. They choose designers because they feel confident leading the project. They've got confidence in that designer. So now I'm curious. I just want to know, is this kind of thinking resonating with you? Are you currently finding pricing a little bit confusing, or have you already worked out a structure that feels really comfortable to you? So leave me a comment below and let me know what you're charging per hour if you game, or just your overall feedback. No problem. I read the comments and it's fascinating to see where designers are sitting at different stages of their business. So, all right, let's have a look at where designers are actually charging or what they're charging right now. Realistic interior design hourly rates based on industry conversations that I've had and what I've seen happening across the market. These ranges are a useful guide. They're not rigid rules, but they're realistic. So let's jump in here. So let's say we've got designers with about 1 to 3 years experience. Typically around $90 to $150 per hour is what they're charging. And at this stage, designers are usually building their portfolio, building those supplier relationships as they get going, and they're building their confidence with clients. They're also building a process, their design process, and that's completely normal. The issue isn't about being newer though. The issue is when someone wants to charge established professional fees before they have the experience or structure to support it. Clients can sense uncertainty very quickly from us. So designers with around 3 to 7 years experience sit at a different structure. They often sit at around $160 to $220 per hour. But this stage designers, they usually have completed projects of sorts, better supplier knowledge, stronger presentations, clearer design direction, and by this stage repeat clients. But interestingly, this is where I see many designers undercharging, not because they should be charging beginner rates, but because they haven't fully stepped into their authority yet. So let's move even further past that. Designers with around 7 to 10 plus years experience. This is where you often see the $250 to $350 per hour rates. These designers usually have a refined process, stronger client leadership, completed projects, professional photography, that's a big one, and very clear boundaries. This is the professional bracket. So if you've been designing for close to 10 years and you're charging something like $250 per hour, you're sitting in a very credible professional range. But then you've got the celebrity designer tiers, and that's a different tier altogether. Of course, if you're a celebrity designer, there are going to be levels at which you operate which are completely different. There are designers who have major media visibility. They've got books out, they've got television exposure, for example, product lines, national recognition. And at that level, consultation fees alone can sometimes reach $1,000 or $2,000. So they're not paying for the literal hour, you're paying for their reputation and experience. For most of us working interior designers and decorators, the real conversation sits within those earlier professional ranges. The real problem isn't the fee. Here's something I see constantly. The issue usually isn't the number. The issue is the confidence behind the number. When designers charge a professional fee, but they don't really feel comfortable backing it up, certain patterns start to appear. They're over-explaining, the reason for the fees and charges. They revise endlessly. I've got to give them more for this money. They present way too many options, and they keep tweaking everything to please the client to make that value really worthwhile. But suddenly the client begins leading the project instead of the designer. And professional designers don't let that happen. They lead. They guide the decisions. They simplify the options. And that leadership is what makes professional fees feel completely reasonable to clients. Then you've got administration and travel time. So this is another thing designers often forget, is that design work doesn't only happen when you're sitting with a client. There's a huge amount happening behind the scenes. So there's things like emailing, sourcing, supply coordination, quoting, logistics, problem solving, travel time, all that sort of thing. And many designers charge admin time that's different to that hourly rate at around maybe 50% of their hourly rate. For example, if your design rate's $250 per hour, your admin rate might be around $125 per hour. Travel time is often billed in a similar way because travel still takes up professional time, but charging half your hourly rate for travel is very normal in service businesses. So I'll give you another real story from a designer. I just want to give you a quick example to really bring this home. Designer I spoke with last year, I did about 50 interviews with different designers and decorators for research for this podcast and YouTube show. This person had recently completed a project that looked amazing. The client loved the result. Home looked amazing. But when she reviewed the numbers afterwards, she realized something was surprising. She'd spent far more time on the project than she originally accounted for. There was, lots of extra emails, and she had to do some extra sourcing. Revisions the client kept requesting, so she wanted to be amiable and keep revising. But when she calculated the real hours she had invested, her effective hourly rate had dropped to about $80 per hour from this, I think it was $150 per hour fee. And that moment was a real wake-up call for her. The problem wasn't, again, nothing to do with her talent. The project looked amazing. The problem was that her structure and pricing weren't strong enough yet. So on the next project, she tightened the process and she adjusted her fees and the way she worked, not giving away too much, not over-promising on things. The one calculation that changes everything earlier in the video I mentioned is a calculation that tells you whether your pricing is actually working. So I want to reveal that to you now. It's something, though, many designers never really check. It's your profit margin at the end of the project. So most healthy surface businesses, design businesses that is, aim for somewhere between 30 to 40% profit margin. So let me give you the calculation. It's very simple. Profit margin equals revenue minus costs divided by revenue. So in simple terms, you take the total revenue from the project, subtract all the costs involved in delivering it, and divide that by the total revenue. If that number lands somewhere between 30 to 40%, the business structure is probably working. If it's much lower than that, something needs adjusting. So maybe then it's the hourly rate. Maybe it's the scope. Maybe it's the revision process. There's too much additional time being put into things where you haven't billed for that time. But instead of guessing your rate based on what everyone else is charging around the area, you define it based on the outcome of your projects. So that's how professional businesses evolve. So I'm curious, what are you charging per hour right now? If you can, let me know in the comments below. And if you want a clearer idea of where your pricing might sit, take the interior designer fee quiz at turnkeydesignsuccess.com/quiz. I'm just leaving that link in the description here. And if this video helped you, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And remember, you are not behind, you're building. And on that note, I'm going to see you in the next video. Bye for now.